Hello and welcome to the deep dive. I'm really glad you could join us today. We're going to unpack something, well, really vital and honestly changing fast: cybersecurity, right here in the UK.
Hello, it's good to be here.
So, this past April, the government released its cybersecurity and resilience policy statement. You can sort of think of it as the detailed plan leading up to the big one, the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. And this bill, well, it's going to mean some pretty big changes for both public services and private companies.
Significant implications, yes.
To help us make sense of it all, we have a fantastic expert with us today, Professor Daniel Shaw. He's a leading voice in cybersecurity policy and actually a former advisor to the UK Cabinet Office on National Digital Resilience. Professor Shaw joins us courtesy of Westferry Times, and we really appreciate them making your expertise available.
Happy to contribute.
Great. So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to dive deep into this new policy statement and figure out what it actually means for, well, for you and for all of us.
A very necessary discussion, I think, given how wide the impact could be.
Absolutely. So let's just get straight to it, shall we? Why this bill? I mean, why right now? What's the fundamental need it's trying to meet?
Well, the urgency really comes from a massive increase in both how often cyber attacks happen and how sophisticated they've become. We're seeing, much more damaging attacks. Think about the ransomware hitting local councils, causing real disruption.
Yeah, those have been quite prominent.
Exactly. Or the constant probing of our national energy infrastructure by, well, hostile state actors. It's serious stuff. And this has really changed the government's thinking. Cybersecurity isn't just seen as an IT problem anymore. It's fundamental to our national resilience.
So it's really about protecting the basics of how the country runs.
Precisely. This policy statement is the government setting out, quite clearly, its plan to formalize responsibilities, making sure everyone knows their role in maintaining cyber resilience across all those essential sectors. It's also about making sure our current rules, like the NIS regulations, are actually fit for purpose now, because the threats out there are just so much more complex than they were. And this expansion is key. Think about manufacturing. It wasn't really covered before, but it's increasingly connected using industrial control systems. That makes it a target.
Right. More interconnected means more vulnerable points.
Exactly. But that sector also faces, unique hurdles, legacy systems, different levels of digital know-how.
Yeah.
It's not simple.
Okay, so is this mostly reacting to things that have already happened, or is it more of a proactive, long-term plan?
I'd say it's definitely a bit of both. I mean, look, there have been some serious wake-up calls, haven't there? Attacks on the NHS, on financial services, those really highlighted vulnerabilities.
Hard to ignore those.
Very. But the policy also signals something more strategic, a longer-term ambition for the UK to be, a world leader in cyber resilience. This bill is about putting that ambition into law, setting up a solid framework for the future.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so looking at the bill itself, what specific measures are definitely in? What can organizations expect to see, for sure?
Right, several key things are confirmed. First off, mandatory cyber incident reporting. This is a big one.
Mandatory reporting. For who?
It'll apply to entities the government considers important. So think local authorities, schools, utility companies, logistics firms, that sort of thing. Second, we're going to see the scope of the NIS regulations expanded. Sectors that weren't really included before, like manufacturing, as we mentioned, and also managed service providers, they'll now fall under these rules.
Wow, okay, that really does widen the net considerably.
It does, yeah. Thirdly, the bill gives the government stronger powers during major national cyber incidents. Think kind of like Cobra-style powers, but for cyber crises.
So the ability to step in and direct things.
Essentially, yes. To coordinate the response and recovery effort when something big happens. And finally, there'll be tougher enforcement. We're talking potential fines, audits, and maybe even publicly naming organizations that don't comply.
So moving beyond just recommending best practice.
Absolutely. It's embedding accountability, a real shift towards regulated responsibility.
Okay, so those are the confirmed bits. But it's interesting to think about what's still being discussed, right? What major proposals are still under consultation?
Yes, there are two really significant areas still being debated. One is the possible creation of a national cyber resilience regulator.
A single regulator.
That's the idea, a sort of independent body to oversee standards, handle audits, enforce the rules across all these different sectors. Now, having one central authority, it sounds efficient, maybe, but it does raise questions. Could it clash with existing regulators? Could it just add more bureaucracy for businesses?
Yeah, a single point of contact should be good, but implementation could be tricky.
Exactly. And the second big area under consultation relates to resilience obligations for private sector supply chains.
Supply chains, what does that mean in practice?
It could mean companies become legally required to check and secure the cybersecurity of all their suppliers, their vendors, their whole ecosystem.
That sounds incredibly complex.
It is. Supply chain security is notoriously difficult. I mean, think about it. A small software company, maybe with limited resources, could unknowingly be the weak link that lets attackers into a much bigger organization. So the debate is really about how you make this work. How do you enforce it without completely overwhelming smaller businesses while still tackling the genuine risk from, insecure suppliers?
It's a real balancing act, isn't it? Securing everything without stifling the smaller players.
Hmm. Okay, let's shift focus slightly to our critical services. How does this policy plan to protect things like water, energy, transport?
Right, these are crucial. The policy actually calls them foundational services. It really highlights how vital they are.
Foundational services make sense. And the bill is expected to bring in several specific requirements just for them, including mandatory business continuity plans that specifically cover cyber scenarios.
So they need a plan B for cyber attacks.
Precisely. Detailed, tested plans for how they'd keep things running or get them back up quickly if a major cyber attack hits. They might, for example, simulate a ransomware attack on, say, a water treatment plant's control systems, just to test how ready they are.
That sounds sensible. Proactive planning.
Definitely. And on top of that, these foundational services will likely face enforced annual risk assessments. They'll have to proactively look for their weaknesses and really understand the specific threats they face. Plus, there's the expectation of mandatory data backups and regular recovery testing, making sure they can actually restore essential services without too much disruption.
So backups and testing become non-negotiable.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the most forward-looking ideas is implementing cyber stress testing.
Cyber stress testing, like putting the digital systems through a really tough workout.
Kind of, yeah. It's based on what the financial sector does after the financial crisis. The idea is to simulate really significant cyber attacks, to see where the breaking points are, and make sure these organizations are truly ready for, well, the worst-case scenario.
So less focus just on stopping attacks, more on surviving them.
Exactly. It's a shift. Still trying to prevent attacks, of course, but also making sure that robust continuity and rapid recovery are baked in.
Okay. So for businesses listening right now, maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed, what are the immediate things they should be thinking about? What actions should they take?
The absolute key thing is to start treating cyber risk as a core business issue, not just something the IT department handles. It needs to be on the boardroom agenda regularly.
Make it a strategic priority.
Absolutely, and practically. That means things like setting up clear cyber governance frameworks, who's responsible for what. It means investing in proper staff training, phishing awareness, data handling. The basics are still crucial. Also, doing regular, thorough security audits to find those weak spots. And businesses should probably start preparing now for those potential mandatory reporting rules. Think about how that would work operationally for them.
Do you get the sense that UK companies, generally speaking, are taking this seriously enough right now?
It's a mixed bag, honestly. There's a really wide range. Some companies are very proactive. They really get the business risk. But it's also fair to say, I think, that many still see cybersecurity as a technical cost center, managed by IT, not really integrated into the overall business strategy or risk management.
Right. An add-on rather than core function.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And this bill, well, it's clearly designed to push that perspective shift, to make it core.
This policy also seems to look beyond just businesses and infrastructure. It talks about building a more resilient society overall. What's the plan there for public trust and education?
Yeah, that's a really important dimension. The government wants to build what it calls a culture of resilience across the whole country. It's a multi-pronged approach. It includes things like funding public awareness campaigns, helping individuals understand online threats, know how to protect themselves better.
So educating the general public.
Yes. And there's also a big focus on boosting cybersecurity education in schools, building that digital literacy and responsible online behavior right from the start. And importantly, the policy talks about promoting secure by design, pushing manufacturers to build security into devices, smart speakers, connected gadgets, right from the beginning, not as an afterthought.
Building resilience from the ground up, it sounds like.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And the policy also touches on protecting our democratic processes. So strengthening cyber defenses around things like elections and core public services.
Which feels increasingly necessary.
It does. So the overall message is really clear. Everyone has a role to play here. Government, industry, individual citizens, we all need to contribute to making the UK's digital space more secure.
Okay, so Professor Shaw, if we were to boil it all down, what are the main things the government really hopes to achieve with this upcoming cybersecurity and resilience bill? What are the key goals?
Ultimately, I think they're aiming for a few core outcomes. First, a real measurable drop in the number of high-impact cyber attacks that cause major disruption. Second, faster, more effective recovery when breaches or incidents inevitably do happen, minimizing the damage. And third, a significant increase in public trust and confidence in using digital services, whether that's online banking or accessing government platforms. The big picture is really about embedding cyber resilience deep into the UK economy, making it a fundamental strength.
Okay. Professor Shaw, before we wrap up, what's the one key piece of advice you'd give to everyone listening today, whether they're a business leader, a civil servant, or just someone using the internet every day?
My advice is actually quite straightforward. Start taking action now. Don't wait for the final bill to become law. Cybersecurity isn't just, a technical problem to be solved. It's fundamentally about protecting your assets, whether personal or organizational. It's about ensuring continuity, keeping things running, and it's about contributing to our collective national security.
So be proactive, basically.
Exactly. Whether that means you go home and improve your password habits, or if you're in business, you start preparing your organization for these likely new regulations. The time to make cyber resilience a priority is definitely now. It's all about building trust, ensuring continuity, and ultimately strengthening our collective ability to withstand threats in this digital world. And thank you for watching Westferry Times.
Professor Daniel Shaw, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us. This has been incredibly helpful, a really insightful deep dive.
It was my pleasure. A very important topic to discuss.
And to you, our listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this exploration of the upcoming Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. We really hope you found it valuable.
Goodbye for now.
Until our next deep dive, please stay safe online and stay informed.